Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here with us this morning. So what a joy to be able to share with you this morning. I had the privilege of being on the greeters team this morning, and there was a lady that came in. I don't know if I can see her. She walked up the stairs and she just went, "I can rest. I've made it." So I want to share that same joy with you now. You can rest. You've made it, and we'll make this next session as painless as we can. Now, I was given all the goods. I got given glasses the other day, and I thought, I have no idea which one I need from here. So I may have to do a few test drives as we go along. But today we're going to continue on this conversation of discipleship. What is a disciple? If I'm called to be a disciple, what does that mean to me? And what do I do about it? What's the action steps that I take? And what is this performance measuring stick? Is there a performance measuring stick? And what is my obligations towards that thing? But we started 2 weeks ago with this phrase. No, not that phrase. Help. Let go, let go. Pastor Ray gave this 2 weeks ago. I was sitting back there. I thought, that's brilliant. Isn't that just got to be the simplest step? Let go, let God. But then you listen to the voices in your head and you go, give it a go. I'm happy to let it go. I'm just going to sort that, and then I'll. So it's simple, but it's not simple. But it is simple. But who's the author of whether it's simple or not simple? It's you and I. It's the conversations in the head, the voices in our heads. And then Pastor Gabby did this sermon last week, and I loved it. I loved her analogies. She said, salt is a precious commodity, but it only has value when it's dispensed. And then she said, what does your salt dispenser look like? And then she said, is this church your dispenser and you don't need to dispense? There's some confronting questions, those. What is my salt dispenser and how do I dispense my faith? What is my action plan? What does it look like when Rodney the disciple is being a disciple maker? How do I dispense my salt? Today we're going to go on this whole journey of listening to the voices in our heads. But to do that, I just want to set 2 guidelines. If you go to our Sabbath school class or our home group, they will be very familiar with these guidelines. Mostly my wife rolls her eyes when I mention them. I mention them a fair bit. But a personal invitation to focus on you. No nudging your partner. So this is a thing, when we start looking internally, we look to how I react, how I walk out my faith. It's easier to go, oh, you must stop doing that. And it's harder to go, geez, I do that. What does that mean? Do I want to do that? Do I like that? And the second is this, my favorite. There's no good information, there's no bad information, there's just information. The minute I attach a value, good and bad, I have to deal with the emotions of good and bad. So if Rodney's a thief, and I go, geez, I got caught, so I'm a thief. Now I've got to deal with letting down my family and letting down the church and letting down my friends, and I've got to deal with all those emotions. But if it's just information, I'm a thief. Do I want to be a thief? No, probably not. Now, what are action steps I'm going to take to not be a thief anymore? And then I can walk through those steps without the condemnation and the judgment of being all those other disappointed aspects. So today, as we go through the data, as you evaluate your thoughts and your automated responses, remember there's no good information, no bad information, just information. My pet bear, if you know anything about me, my pet bear. I'm going to introduce you to the psychology of our faith. Sigmund Freud, 1856, here comes the big test, can I read it? 1856 to 1939, introduces us to the gold standard of psychological research, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT is like, if you're in the psychology game or in the mind game, when they sit you down, everybody's trying to work CBT into their treatment, their plan, their programs. So what is this amazing CBT? CBT says, Rodney, how are you? I go, yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good, mate, is my cognitive behavior. Our minds have a capacity to process so much data, but not as much as we think. So to enable us to do it better, we make a few shortcuts. And the trigger for me is, how you, mate? My automated response is, yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good, mate does not represent how I'm actually feeling. I could be terrible at that time. But you're not going to get that answer. You're going to get, yeah, good, mate. That's cognitive behavior. My cognitive behavior is, yeah, good, mate. Cognitive behavior therapy goes, Rodney, you said, yeah, good, mate, when you're clearly not good. Oh, geez, that's not great. So what could I do about that? I could change it. What do I need to do to change it? I need to recognize that I'm not great before I release that automated response. My question to you, even right now, you will have varied relationships with me. Some of you will be going, oh, there's that Rodney. Cognitive behavior will go, dodgy ads. Others will go, oh, I don't mind Rodney, he's all right. Others will say, I like Rodney. There's not many, but there's a few, I think. And you'll have a different point of view of me standing right here. That's your cognitive behavior. The data that I'm about to present to you is of no consequence to that opinion. It's just an opinion. But I'm now going to go through and present some data, but I want you to start this process by capturing your thought. Oh, so what do I think? What have I already thought in the 3 minutes leading up to this thing? And how is that going to skew how I take this data going forward? So why CBT? What does the Bible say about CBT? Oh, it teaches us to recognize our automated responses and situations to capture our thoughts. That's the theme with which we want to go through today's session, or today's sermon, teaching period time together. 2 Corinthians 10 verses 5, coming out of the ESV. I'm paraphrasing it as capture every thought. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. Lofty opinion. Going to get myself into trouble just with that statement. You know, so when I look at my life and I say, what's my lofty opinion? My lofty opinion is my rule sticks, my expectations that I have on you as a Christian, that I have on the guy that's not yet a Christian, or the guy I'm about to save who's like, what are you saving me from? I'm fine. No, I'm a disciple and I'm a disciple maker, so I'm coming to save you. He's like, mate, the only person that needs saving is probably the crazy person, and it's looking a lot like you at the moment. So what is the expectations? What is the set of rules that create my lofty opinions? Because I'm called to take them captive. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to capture my thoughts. So yeah, we see in psychology, every psychology, anything is tied to CBT. It's found its way back to CBT. It's that important that it's worked its way into every framework. And the Bible precedes that with a statement, capture your thoughts. Now let me ask you a question as a disciple and a disciple maker. How many times you captured your thoughts? If you're anything like me, I went to the States to do some exercises. This was one of the exercises. My mate said, how many times you captured your thoughts? I said, never. He said, oh, here's a homework. You've got a week. You've got to carry a pen and a piece of paper, and you've got to write down your thoughts. I've never been so tired in my life. And I've never written so many notes in my life. But you know what? It took about a half an hour for me to work out the way I think. It wasn't rocket science. And I could stand back and look at my recordings there and go, I don't always think it's going to end well, do I? But I can only make that statement once I've caught my thoughts, once I've captured my thoughts. So if we're going to be good disciples, and we haven't caught our thoughts, then how effective are we as disciples? How effective are we going to be as disciple makers? My next friend, Viktor Frankl, 1905 to 1997. It's smaller there, so I'm going to give it a go there. Neurologist, psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor. Best known as the founder of logotherapy, a form of extrasential therapy focused on finding the meaning of life. That was his thing. I loved his phrase, his catchphrase that gets celebrated. Everything can be taken from man but one thing. The last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. I can get stripped of my humanity. I can get stripped of my belongings. I can get stripped of my rights. I can get stripped of my intellect, my health, my will to live, my everything. And when I'm at my barest, at my final breath, there's one thing that they can't strip from me: my choice. As is true for you. The problem with choice is if I don't know what I choose, what do I end up living with? If I haven't captured my thoughts, then I don't know what my automated choice is. I don't know, good, what that looks like in that situation when I'm facing the storm. My challenge to you is, do you know? Do we know collectively what our choices are and how we react on them? Why is this important? That's not the right page. Back to there. I call heaven and earth to record this day against that I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your seed may live. Now I want you to capture your thought as you read that verse, because some of us will have a picture of a God and he's got a whole lot of gifts and he's got a big stick. When you do well, it gives you a gift. When you do badly, the other option B. And that's one of our thoughts. But if we haven't captured that thought and gone, geez, does that sound like God? Because that was my thought. And then when I went through this exercise of capturing my thoughts, I went, that doesn't sound like, I don't want to serve a God like that. So what is the God I want to serve? And this is the story that makes sense for me. Sometimes we give our kids some lollies. It's a blessing. So you pour the lollies in a bowl and you put it on the table and you say, kids, treat day, help yourself. Here's the thing though. If you eat the whole bowl, probably going to have a sore tummy, probably not a good idea. But hey, it's a blessing, go for it. So they have before them an opportunity of life and death, blessings and curses. When the lollies are gone, curses are in. My tummy. You know, and that for me explains to me the Garden of Eden. You know, God didn't set us up for failure. Didn't set Adam and Eve up. He said, man, yes, the Garden of Eden, it is beautiful. It has everything you need. I wouldn't eat from that tree, but man, eat from any other tree. I'm not waiting for you to fail so I can hit you over the head from eating from that tree. I'm waiting to celebrate you as you do life, eating from everything else. They chose to eat from that tree. They ate the whole bowl of lollies. And we're still dealing with the consequences of that. My question to you is, are you aware if you're choosing life or death? And when you're fronted with that opportunity of life or death, is it because God's let you down, the church has let you down, the guy next door has let you down, life is hard, it's not fair? Is it every one of those things, or is it those things? You know what is a great example? Joseph, I'm going to jail again. Yay! But there was a dream. David, anointed king. Man, that was poor anointing because it went pear-shaped from me. They keep wanting to kill me. I'm like, how do I give this anointing back? So he had an opportunity. Choose life or death. He chose life. He said, I'm not going to hurt the king. I'm not going to reach in and take authority over God's anointed king. But he anointed me. I don't understand it. I'm just going to do the best I can. And he gets to be that king. Do we get to be our disciples and our disciple makers if we don't know our choices? If we haven't captured our thoughts? If we haven't chosen life over death or blessings over curses? Do we? Why is it important? We know all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. I'm smiling because I love this verse, but man, I get into trouble for this verse a lot. Because the temptation is to use the top two pieces. And all things work together for good. Fantastic. Then they look at your life and they go, Rodney, I don't know what you're doing, but if you believe that, man, you've got some weird glasses because there's some messy things in your life. Some things didn't really go too well. But then there's the last two sentences, to them that are called according to his purpose. So when David is getting hunted down, he's going, that's unfortunate, but God's purpose is perfect. When Joseph is going to yet another prison, he goes, that's unfortunate, but I believe in God's call. When God says you're going to be a disciple and a disciple maker, and you do that thing that disqualifies you by your set of rules, that's unfortunate. But pursue his purpose. It doesn't dictate the outcome. He does. How do we know he does? Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Matthew 28. We've got an instruction. Now, it's interesting, that instruction, because capture your thought. You go, okay, so I've got an obligation. I'm a Christian. I've got an obligation to meet this thing. I've got to go make disciples of all the nations. And then we formulate our plan. So I've got to get up early and pray, and I've got to be at every prayer meeting, and I've got to live a perfect life. And you will have your criteria list, and I will have my criteria list, and we'll have 100 different criteria lists we ask each other. But is that true? Let's have a look if that's true. Am I disqualified? Go and learn what this means. Matthew 9, verses 13. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. So let's reflect back on that criteria, that expectations, those rules, those obligations you set for yourself to be a good disciple. Did he ask you for sacrifice? Or did he ask you for mercy? Mercy is as much something that you've got to give yourselves as if you've got to give others. You know, those people that we're trying to disciple, that we're trying to save, do they need mercy? Or do they need sacrifice? The language that we use when we love on them is that when you get your act together, or when you stop making poor choices, and when you can you hear the language? Lots of expectations and rules and obligations. Nothing sounds like mercy. It all sounds like sacrifice. I've got to give up all these poor natures and characters and reactions so that I can be a good believer. And God's like, no, just be a good believer. And as you walk alongside me in mercy, you'll stop doing those things because it just won't make sense anymore. Can we be brave enough to consider that as our next step? Why me? Why you? John 15, 16 to 17. You did not choose me. I chose you. Appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. Fruit that will last. And so whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my commandment. Love each other. Who chose who? He chose you. He chose me. Does it make sense? Let me cast you back to that when I just got up here. If you don't like me, why is he up there? If you kind of like me, yeah, he's up there. If you sort of like me, yeah, he's up there. That measuring stick is of no consequence when we say, who chose who? It's a challenge because we just went through, as a family of the church, a difficult time. And there's an expectation to choose a side. But why choose a side when God chose? We just love God. Do the best we can in his house. And he'll restore it. Let's do that. Let's love each other. See how that verse closes with this commandment. Love each other. The rest, it's details. But now let me ask you, so if I'm going to love you, I need to know how I think about you. I need to know when I see you, do I go, it's all mate? Or do I go, hey, it's all mate? Or do I go, hey, I like all mate? I've got to know, at very least I've got to know my automated response, because that will dictate my response to you. That will dictate the way I receive information from you, the way I love you, the way I serve you. All of that will be infused with that initial But if I don't know what that initial is, we got a problem. As a disciple, my invitation and my challenge to you today is capture your thoughts. Why love each other? Mark 12:28-31. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them good answers, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater commandment than these. There's a lot of loving happening there. A lot of loving. Let me ask you now, put on your capture every thought process there and say, so how do we love? Through what lens do we love? Through what list of expectations, obligations, duties, rules? Or do we love from a place of mercy where we go, man, that doesn't make any sense to me? But God, you've called me to love people, so go figure, you work it out. I'm just going to do my best to love. But it gives us a very definite structure. It says, I've got to love God, I've got to love others, and I've got to love myself. So there's definitely three audiences involved here. Love God, love others, love myself. Let me ask you, do you love yourself? Yeah, on a good day, I'm good. Do you love others? There's those. There's those. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to love others. Do you love God? No problem. I love God. How do you love God if you don't love those? They're not linked. No, they're linked. The capacity with which I have to love myself is the same capacity with which I have to love others. The capacity with which I have to love others is the capacity with which I love God. We sold ourselves this concept that, no, I can buy stuff, because some of us, we don't love ourselves. Well, let me capture a thought for you. How do you love yourself? Some of us will go, well, that's the problem. It's always about us. So is that love, or is that not love? That's selfishness, arrogance, pride, expectations. That's that. But a guy who truly loves himself will go, man, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm drawing alongside my Father. I'm trying to understand His purpose for my life. And I'm going to fail by many of you, and I'm going to succeed by some of you, but I'm going to do my best. That's a guy who loves himself. A guy who loves himself, he says, mate, you do it my way, you hit the highway. Lofty opinions, his set of rules, his obligations. But a guy who says, man, I don't understand. It's messy. It doesn't work. It's awkward. It's frustrating. I understand all that. I'm just doing the best I can while I walk with my Father as we walk this thing through. So that's love myself. So I can go and go, oh, do I love myself? I can do the maths. I can capture the thought. I can say, there's that thing. What's that thing? Is it grace? Is it mercy? Or is it sacrifice? No, we're not doing sacrifice. We're just doing mercy. Thank the Lord. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here because, man, I can mess a few things up. Sacrifice, mercy. Choose mercy. And we're going to keep coming back to this thing. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. The fruit, this fruit, these other disciples we're looking for. We can have our best marketing plan as a Christian. This is my niche market. This is how I'm going to get them. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to entice them this way, and then I'm going to save them. And he's going, but that's great, but I got these fruit for you over here that will last. No problem, God. I'm coming. I'm just going to execute my amazing marketing plan over here. And then when I've shown you how you get disciples, then I'll consider these ones that you've... We only know we're doing that when we're capturing our thoughts. When we're going, geez, God, it's not my job to find these people that I'm discipling. You said you appointed me that I will go and bear fruit, that the fruit will be a product of my relationship with you. It's not something I'm hunting down or looking for or trying to achieve or a notch I'm trying to... It will be a byproduct of my relationship with you. And that fruit is going to last. The minute I say, okay, cool, we're all sorted now, we're all going out there to be disciples. Fabulous, thanks for coming. Our next psychological hurdle, expectations. Oh dear. Next week, they're going to call us in and say, all right, how many disciples did you make? Why are you doing so badly? Did you get up early and pray? What's your story? I don't want stories. I want results. And you know who's the author of most of those expectations in your life? Probably you. So when you think about this data, you think, man, I'm probably tripping myself up here. I'm trying my best to love God, to walk alongside Him, but I'm failing because of my expectations. My rule stick, my measuring stick, my obligations, my expectations. Instead of just showing mercy and saying, God, man, I'm no good at this, but I'm willing to love you. Will you come show me how to love you better? And in loving that, will you help me show others how they could love you and they could live their best life with you? Why? Because you did not choose Him. He chose you. I don't know why. Why He chose me, I'll ask Him one day. I say, mate, I don't get it. There was a better way, I'm telling you. But you chose me. And He chose you. And the very storm and mess and distraction and frustration that surrounds you is no different to the mess, storm, and distraction that was around Joseph as he enters his new prison, or David as he gets hunted down for his umpteenth time, or Moses as he gets laughed at by the king, or, pick a story. We like to focus on the end of the story, where it's all going well. But man, it's normally just that piece. The rest of the piece is, ooh. But He chose me. He chose me to go on this journey. And He chose you. Will you go along with Him? Acts 17. Now we have a choice. Listen to the voice in your head now. I don't know about this Rodney. Not sure I like what he says. But he's wrapping up, so I'm about to kick it and get out of here. And I love what they teach to the Bereans, or what they observe from the Bereans. So it's Paul, and he's traveling around. He's just come from Thessalonica. He arrives in Berea, and he's talking to the Berean Jews, and he goes, there are no more characters than these in Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the Scriptures every day to see what Paul was saying was true. They received the Scriptures with eagerness. They went, man, that's a fantastic message. I don't believe you. It's a great message. I understand the data, the theory. I can work with all of that. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to grab my Bible and I'm going to say, now in relation to my understanding of this document, that you just taught me either stacks up or fails hopelessly. And either way, I'm going to base my decision to deploy that truth or that information on that understanding. You know what that is? They captured their thoughts. They captured their thoughts and they did what? They brought it in alignment with the will of God, the Word of God. As disciples, are we capturing our thoughts? You will know the answer. And what are you doing with that information? I want to finish on with our, it's just, you can't get it more, but that's it. Let go. Let God. And they're gonna sing an item for us now before we wrap up. But what I want you to do is I don't want you to move on to the next task, because remember we got our CBT. We're gonna it's the end of the service. I got to rush out. I got to get my car moved. I got to get the coffee and I got to get the good table. And no automated responses. What we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, God, help me capture that thought that today I might want to change. What's that thought that today I might want to rethink? And as they go through the item, reflect on that, and then we're going to pray at the end. We're going to ask for revelation, for restoration, for renewing of the mind. Thank you.